And let's see. So we have Yuri next. And I had the privilege of being on. So Yuri was hosting earlier. He did an amazing job. And I've also spoken to Yuri before in the metaverse, which is I'd heard of the metaverse. I thought, I'm not so sure about this metaverse thing. And then I got the opportunity to be in the Rise community metaverse and to actually speak in there. What an amazing privilege. I learned loads from this guy, Yuri. He's just an expert in the realms of Web3, NFTs, and all that kind of stuff. His chapter 31 of the book is how to use Web3, NFTs, and tokens for your marketing. And I think this is a very kind of new, exciting part of marketing. I think something that we all really need to know about. And Yuri does an amazing job of giving us some tips, explaining it all in the book. And Yuri Balast is a fractional CMO and Web3 marketing strategist. He is a best-selling author on Amazon and the host of the CMO Stories podcast, which is all about Web3 marketing. And Yuri loves public speaking, which is awesome. I'm going to bring in Yuri now onto the show. Hello, Yuri. How are you doing?
Hi, Ian. Nice to be back again. And I'm all this day excited. I thought I will do some other stuff, but I was not able to.
Oh dear. We're tempting you away from your other work. But anyway, it's not every day we get to publish a book. But I think, am I right in saying you're already an author? Have you done books before?
Yes, as you said in introduction, I published one book which was around social media marketing, which was 3 weeks on #1 on Amazon, and that was actually at the moment that I decided to go for Web3. So it is a strange story. But
okay. So you made this. So yes, but that is the problem, isn't it, in marketing? When we pivot, and I've pivoted a few times, you become known for one thing, and then see the temptation is just to stick with that when you actually should be focusing on something else. So this isn't on my list of questions for you, but I am really interested in this. Like, how did you make that switch from that to Web3 and focusing in this? Because basically, like, I can't, every time I go like on LinkedIn or somewhere and I want to know about Web3, I see your face. So you're obviously doing a great job. Tell us how it happened.
Yeah, so actually, Mark Schaefer, who we both know, he's the father, I would say, of the Rise community. He's played a big role in that. In a nutshell, let's say it was March 2022. I was in San Diego at Social Media Marketing World. I had bought a token of Mark's coins, the rally token at that moment. So I got to meet Mark in person there in San Diego. At the same event, Michael Stelzner, so the organizer of Social Media Marketing World, gave an NFT to everyone. And so I was talking to Mark, and he was talking about Web3 and this Discord community, or he was even thinking about doing it on Slack at that moment. So I got to know Mark. I got the NFT for Michael Stelzner. I said, why do they, as an organization that is really known for social media, start to do stuff in the Web3 world? So I dove into that. I met Mark, I connected with Mark, I was one of the first members on Discord. And then in the summer, I followed Mark Schaefer's personal branding class. And out of that, I would say 6 sessions came out that I needed to focus on Web3. And so I have been diving into Web3, making content about that, having my podcast, as you mentioned, and repurposing this podcast, putting it everywhere on social media. And so people got to know me for Web3. The funny thing about this story is at that moment, my book, which was an adventure of 3 years, it didn't do well in Belgium. So I'm in Belgium. People, for one or another reason, it didn't work. I took my book to Social Media Marketing World in 2022. People in the US were excited. I said, okay, let's put it on Amazon. Let's have a few people buy it at the start. And yeah, it's a strange story, but at the moment that my book was on the top, I decided to do something else.
But it's great you had that experience in writing a book, and obviously that didn't put you off in getting involved with this project. So what inspired you to contribute to this book in particular on Web3?
Actually, for me, it was a no-brainer. So I had already written a book, but it took me 3 years to get the things that were in my head on paper, because for me, it's easier to talk, to speak, than to write. So first you need to get your thoughts on paper, then you need to promote it. And so that's a whole adventure. But then being in a community where you have people that take on certain, I would say, responsibilities, have certain skills. You have the shared accountability, of course. You have someone like Mark Schaefer, who has already established a brand, who has already written bestsellers in marketing. So for me, it was like all these things together. I just need to do this. And and I'm really happy also because in the adventure itself, you get to know all the other authors.
And that's been amazing. That's probably been the fun thing about this. I mean, writing the chapter was fun. And I think I got a lot of confidence from writing it because I realized actually I don't know whether you ever feel like this, but sometimes I forget how much I know. And I wrote it and I thought, oh, I actually do know quite a lot about this. So sometimes we need a reminder of that. I'm fascinated by Web3 and all of this stuff. But it is quite a complex world. There's a lot of people. I talk to my kids, talk to my wife, to my friends about NFTs. I try and explain it to them, try and talk about crypto. There are a lot of difficult concepts. So I wonder whether you could give us a brief overview of the key takeaways in your chapter. And I'd love to know, how do you go about demystifying and making these concepts easy for us to understand?
So first thing to making it easy to understand is avoiding those complex words. Like, for instance, NFTs. Instead of talking about NFTs, we could say digital collectibles. Instead of talking about the metaverse, we could say virtual worlds. So instead of talking about Web3, you could say a new version of the internet. And then, because that's a question Ian, I get all the time, and even from experienced marketers. I was at a mastermind in Anaheim a couple of months ago, and I was asking advice. How can I grow my mastermind to find Web3 people? And they said, what is Web3? So that was the first question. So then I was at the table. I did the table talks. I hosted the table talks, Web3 table talks at Social Media Marketing World this year. First question, what is Web3? So then my answer is, I compare with Web 1. Web 1 is when the internet started. People were consuming information on the internet, were reading stuff on the internet. It was one way. Then Web 2 came with social media. You were putting stuff on the internet too. So it was reading, writing, so both direction. The problem now that we see with Web 2 is that all these big companies like Facebook, they own your data and you don't own the data. So Web 3 solves that problem. And okay, it's really short, but these kinds of, I would say, of comparisons, of trying to avoid difficult words, that people start to get it. And you can also learn it by listening to podcasts, listening to other people repeating you the same things again and again. And one of the words I also like to use for metaverse, it's the immersive aspect of it, that you really feel that you are immersed in this virtual world.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that, getting away from the jargon and explaining things in a easy to understand way. And being in a community, like, I love new technology, but even I was a little bit nervous or put off by the concept of the metaverse. I mistakenly thought, this is just, it's not going to go anywhere. I think I couldn't understand it or conceptualize it until I actually went in and was involved in it. So how do you teach people who are maybe a bit skeptical about all of this? How do you get them excited about it? Or is that too hard? Is that a difficult job? I don't know.
No, it is not. There are different aspects around Web3. Yeah. First, I guess you will have had the same issue like I had. So there are imposters on the internet, on social media. They just copy your profile. They have fake profiles all the way. And there is not so much that Meta does about this, because they like to have a lot of people, a lot of user accounts. So then they are on the stock market, or so they can say there are so many user accounts. So the problem is those fake imposters exist. Now with Web3, it is not possible. Everything is on the blockchain. You can have a digital identity, which I explain to people. And this digital identity can then be linked to a Web3 domain name. So I explain them these terms and then they start listening. Like, for instance, I have the digital identity Yuri.nft. And I say to people, if you are now first to understand this and to get your digital identity, you will be ahead of the game comparing to everyone else now in this world. So digital identity is one thing I explain to them. Then I explain them NFTs and tokens, how you can see this as a membership, as a loyalty card that is on the blockchain and that has a value. Like, for instance, you can also use this as an access for an event. For instance, if you go to an event, to a concert, after that, the ticket is worthless, actually, normally. Instead of you want to keep all these tickets. But in Web3, you can sell it and the initial owner can still get money if this ticket is resold and resold and resold. These have their advantage. And then metaverse, as you said, just experience it, see what it could do, how you feel like it. And then by doing it, by being there, you gave a talk in the metaverse. You would never have imagined that if you wouldn't have tried it and see how people would reacted on that. Yeah. So those different aspects, I talk about these and people get fascinated by the story and they want to learn more.
I think this is great. I think I've spoken to quite a few people who've maybe been put off by some of these people who are explaining it using lots of jargon words. So we've got Larry saying, great point, jargon and buzzwords get in the way more often than not. But it doesn't have to be complicated. And the way you explain it is, you just have this great way of explaining it in an easy to understand way. And it's also, there are some really key benefits to this. This is not technology for technology's sake, which is exciting. And being part of the Rise community is amazing too, because we can discuss all of these things. So I'd love to know, Yuri, can you give us a brief overview of the takeaways from the chapter in the book, which is about Web3? Tell us a little bit. Obviously, don't give us all of it, but just the key takeaways.
I know, it's exactly the question I also asked to when I was, there are some takeaways, of course. One of them is just take now the first step and start to explore. Visit the metaverse, make an account, it's free, just check it out. How does it work? NFTs, for instance, non-fungible tokens. Check maybe around you, maybe there are already some people that you know that have a wallet. Ask them where did they get the NFT, and then make sure that when you get an NFT, that it's a free NFT at first, so that you can not lose any money, but then you see how it works. I have also NFTs that I have given away to people that filled in a survey, for instance. So if other people like me do that, they give away an NFT as a gift because you help them, then you see how it works. So I would say, check out the metaverse, check out an NFT. How can I get an NFT? How does it work? Create a wallet, because that's for most people the most difficult part. But there are now, I would call them between Web 2 and Web 3 websites that give you the opportunity to get an NFT for free or to buy it with your credit card for a few dollars. And then you create directly a wallet address, because you need to log in with your email address, and you create a wallet address by creating an account. And that way the onboarding is really easy. And then from there, of course, once you see, okay, this is an NFT, this is how it works, and you need to take the first step, I would say. And then once you have this, then you can start to think for your business. How could we use an NFT if, for instance, I have a store? Okay, if you store, you have maybe a loyalty program. Or if you organize events, maybe you have tickets or membership passes that you have. So start to think, how can I replace something physical by something digital, which is on the blockchain? And the blockchain is just there because there cannot be any fraud, because it's on a blockchain. So people know it's the real membership card. If I have an NFT, for instance, in the beginning, we had an NFT, a token to get access to the Rise community on Discord. If you didn't have the token, you would not be able to get in. So think about real world, I would say, applications like access, membership cards, loyalty, and then see, you could use NFT for that.
No, that's great. That's really helpful. And so All of this is in the chapter that you wrote on Web3, NFTs. It's not scary at all. It's a great way to get started in this world. And I think the way you explained starting off in a simple way, don't just jump into the deep end. I think sometimes we can listen to some very advanced podcasts that talk about this and get scared off, but it's just a case of starting off. You don't have to necessarily get involved with blockchain at the start. Because I didn't realize actually, Yuri, that you could just buy NFTs using a credit card, or obviously you can get free ones as well. I wanted to ask you so you told us a little bit about how you got into Web3, but I'd love to know a little bit about how what was your significant learning experience? What helped you become an expert in this? Because this is still fairly new technology, a very new part of marketing, and it feels a bit like the Wild West. It's new. So how did you get started? How did you get to where you are today?
So I had an advantage of my background. So I had in the past, before I went into marketing, I had a business intelligence company, consulting company. So I understand IT and tech. Also, I had an investment club. So I understand the financial markets and how they evolve. And then I've been into marketing already for quite some time. So for me, marketing and IT and finance come together in Web3. And then when I heard about these concepts, it's easier for me to fast understand everything comparing to someone that comes from a whole other background. So what did I do? So I was talking to people. I was starting to invite people on my podcast from the Web3 space. So before that, I was just inviting people a bit from different kinds of niches. But then I said, okay, now I just invite people from the Web3 space. And by talking to those people, every time asking the same questions, getting different answers, listening to podcasts myself, being in the network, talking to people, discussing, and just trying out stuff. Like I was in Mark's community, and like Dan was the guy that said, let's do a book project. Like I was a guy that said, let's do events in the metaverse. And Mark said, yeah, let's do this.
So
and
it's your fault again for the metaverse. Yeah.
So and I just said, let's do this. And because it was a safe environment to learn. And because of that, those different aspects came together and made me make a maneuver to really go fast and really get that people knew me in the space, and because I was connecting with them. So now if you talk to someone, they will say, oh, Yuri, yeah, I know him, because I talked to them.
Yeah. So we've got lots of these people to blame, but I wonder what the next thing is going to be, an NFT creation project or something. Fiona says Cowboy Yuri. So yes, it is the Wild West, and you make it much easier to understand Yuri and take away the fear. And I think that's true. There is an element of fear with this. I think you've done a really good job of explaining how we can get started with this. I'd love to hear from you some more ideas on how businesses, and maybe smaller businesses, because I think the bigger businesses like Nike, we've talked about Nike before, they've probably got bigger budgets, they've got bigger marketing departments, but can small, medium-sized businesses use Web3, the metaverse, NFTs? I assume the answer is yes, but can you maybe give us some examples on how they can use them?
Like I mentioned already, the loyalty card or the membership card, you could do the same thing. You don't call it an NFT, you just call it a digital membership card. If you have, for instance, a small sports center or fitness center, you could do this instead of like a regular membership card. It could be a digital one. The same thing with someone who sells as a physical store, who sells clothes or whatever. That could also be like an NFT. If you have a restaurant and you want to organize events in your restaurant, you want to start up a networking club, for instance, you're an entrepreneur, then you could use an NFT as a membership card, and also something that's visible on the blockchain that people are proud to share. And you could use the aspect of scarcity to have people want to get the NFT and show them to their friends so that they are proud to show it and being ahead of the game, because now they have an NFT, but it's linked to their favorite, maybe store in the village where they live or something else. So membership, loyalty are, for me, the two things that you could use it. Also access. access to, you can, everything that you organize or that you want to gate, you could use an NFT for this. With an NFT, you could see an NFT actually as a badge where you add a kind of logic to it. So if I have your NFT, Ian, you could add a rule like if then else. For everyone that got the NFT in their wallet, they have access to special course about live streaming on my website. But without the NFT, you don't have the access. If OEF is, it could be like a premium layer or something really special that you limited. And because it's really limited, people can see it. It could make sense. So these are one of the options. There are many options, of course, but just think of not specifically on an NFT, but think of something digital, access, membership, loyalty, and then that's first because it should be useful. Don't have an NFT project just because you want an NFT project. There has been a time when people just bought every NFT. Of course, if you are an artist, for instance, and you can create art, that could be a possibility that you sell something as an NFT, but then the NFT again can also be a proof of ownership that you own that specific art.
No, that's really interesting. And I think this is the problem that still a lot of people think that NFTs is just digital art. And I have to admit, I used to think that. It's just, why are these people buying these pixelated images of cats and things? But you did a really great job of explaining it's much more than that. It's these rules behind it, and you can give people access, and then you can change that over time. And that blows my mind. I think this is interesting and exciting, and small businesses can use that as well, which is great. So how would a company, a small business who loves they might be listening in today, how would they go about doing that? They've got a really good idea, but it just seems a bit too complicated.
Yeah, of course. And at first they need help. First, they need to understand the idea, and then they need a way to put this NFT out there. There are a couple of platforms that exist that make it easy for you, but then still it's best to talk to someone that has already done it. Now, that's what I'm trying to do with my masterminds. There are people in there that are entrepreneurs that have a business but want to use Web3. So they come in my mastermind because it's more interesting for them to discuss with peers, like also we do in the Rise community, and that I help them instead of hiring an expensive agency. Because if you are a business owner, you just want to get your stuff done. Or the alternative is, of course, that you try to understand, that you take a course, that you try to understand everything and apply it yourself. The thing I would say is just don't make it too complex. Start with a simple idea. Try to see how you could do it. Try to see, can you do it yourself? Do you know someone that can help you? Can you join a community where people are doing it? Or do you want to join a mastermind? Just see for yourself what fits for you. But I would first try to understand it myself and see how you could do it before you delegate it.
Definitely. So I think you've answered part of my next question, which was common mistakes that businesses make. And maybe one of them is overcomplicating it, trying to do it themselves. Are there any other common mistakes in the Web3 world that you see businesses making?
Yeah. So thinking that Web3 is indeed only a JPEG, or it's easy, or Web3 is like the real world. There are also scams. There are people with, that try to hack you or whatever. So you need the same thing that in Web2, you should be careful. If you get an email or someone on social media approaches you that you don't know, you should also be careful in Web3. Don't click on a link, or if you don't. So that's one thing. You should be careful because it's not because it's Web3. It can be both ways. It's not worse than in real life or in Web2, but it's not better either. So just be aware of that. And then, and if you start with something, just think it over, but don't think it too much. Just make something where you know that the risk is limited and try it, because if you wait too long, you will. And if you have yourself an NFT project, that's what I learned. Just first NFT, give it away for free to people so that there is no friction because you just give it away. If you ask people to buy it, even with their credit card, they maybe are not feeling really comfortable with it because it's something they don't know. But if you give it to them, then they get to learn it, then they get to know it, and maybe they will come back. So that's also an advice that I would give. And if you make it like really complex, if you want to have an NFT with a lot of utilities, they call that, a lot of value, services linked to that, maybe it's good to talk to a lawyer or someone who really understands what they are doing.
Absolutely. Another mistake that you could make is not to buy the book and read Yuri's chapter on Web3. So chapter 31, how to use Web3, NFTs and tokens for your marketing. So definitely check it out. It's an amazing chapter. Thank you, Yuri, for that. And we're almost out of time. It's just gone so quickly. I know you had this experience earlier, didn't you?
Yes.
So here is the book, the QR code. This will take you to Amazon. We've had quite a few more clicks or QR code scans, which is exciting. If you've just joined and you don't know what this is about, so Mark Schaefer has put this book together, collaborated with 36 authors. Yuri has written the chapter on Web3. I've written the chapter on live streaming, and we're trying to get through, interview as many of the authors in the book over the 24 hours. So if you scan that book, the most amazing marketing book ever, I should say, it is on special offer on Amazon. The Kindle version is only $2.99, which is a bit of a steal. So that is awesome. Well, thank you, Yuri. It's been great to have you on the show. I probably will be seeing you in Newcastle. Which is
you will. If you will be there, we will see each other. Great.
So it'll be great to see you in person. Thank you, Yuri. I will put you back in the green room, and